Welcome back to Mentor Generations with Teacher Angie. In today's episode, we take a look at populations in ecology. Our beautiful planet is in a complicated balance of plant and animal survival, where life and death, predation and prey, and many other phenomena are common. Ecology then seeks to study all these and more, especially as pertains our home, the planet. It seeks to study the relations of organisms to one another and to their physical environment, seeking to answer such questions as how do living things interact? How do they rely on each other and to their environment and the impact of this on each other? Remember, the survival of any species isn't dependent on the species itself alone, but on the other non-living and living components of the organism surrounding, hence there is interdependence. For example, we human beings, for example, cannot survive without the life-giving oxygen from the plants. And the plants need the carbon dioxide from us and definitely from other organisms. In our today's episode, we take a look at populations in ecology. Zooming into any ecosystem reveals the complexity of ecology and of the interdependence of organisms. So welcome, get your pen and paper ready, and let us learn together. Please take a minute to subscribe to the channel and give this video a thumbs up. And yes, we start with the lesson expectations. Number 1, what is population? 2, characteristics of population. 3, population estimation methods. 4, quizzes and assignments are also going to be part of this presentation, so ensure you watch the video to the end, and yes, stay put. Thank you. So what is population? It is a group of organisms belonging to the same species in a particular habitat. It is important to remember that population isn't static. That means it is dynamic. It keeps changing in size, structure, and organization. Take a look at the examples of populations we have here. There is the chicken population, the cattle population, and another example we have there is of the giraffe population in a national park. So take note that it is a group of organisms belonging to the same species. They must be of the same species and in a particular habitat. So you can see in the chicken there have their place where they live. Probably they have the farmer there feeding them. And we have the giraffes in the national park. The national park there being the habitat of the giraffes. Moving on, we have the characteristics of populations. There are several, but we'll tackle the 3: density, dispersion, and population growth. Population density is the number of individuals per unit area, and usually it's measured in kilometers squared, so it's per number of individuals per kilometer squared. Dispersion, on the other hand, is the distribution or the spread of organisms in a particular habitat, and population growth is the rate of increase in numbers of organisms in a habitat. An example of population density we have here: sheep. There are 20 sheep per kilometer squared. That means the unit area there is kilometer squared, and there are 20 sheep on this particular example. Moving on, there are certain factors that affect populations: the rates of births, deaths, and the ratio of male and female in the population. Onto the population estimation methods. This seeks to look at the methods of estimating population sizes it's important to note that different organisms have different methods of determining their population sizes, be they plants or animals. The methods may vary due to the size, depending on the size of organisms, type of habitat, the degree of mobility or how mobile the organism is, and the behaviors of the organism, among others. It should be appreciated in ecology that in the real situations, animals, birds, bees, animals like birds, bees, locusts, mammals, reptiles, fish, and many others aren't uniformly distributed but occur in groups, meaning in estimating the populations of these particular species or organisms, you find them in clusters occurring in groups. So then that makes it a bit easier to estimate populations because you tend to find groups of organisms of the same species clustered together, hence ease in estimation of their population sizes. For plants, especially the large ones like the baobab tree, the meru oak, among others, can be easily determined just by direct counts. And in most cases, it's usually impossible to count each and every plant and animal present in the habitat, hence the use of representative groups called samples within the habitat. By definition, a sample is just a small number of individuals taken from the habitat that is representative of the whole population and is estimated based on the size of the habitat. Determining the size of a population is very important because it helps in making environmental and conservation decisions on existing biodiversity while examining the conditions that affect the survival and the health of species, determining those that are endangered, and proposing the survival mechanisms and conservation mechanisms on the same, and fostering development projects to create a suitable environment for human, plant, and animal life. There are several methods of estimating population sizes. One is the line transect method, which involves random sampling. It's done by running a long rope or a measuring tape along a selected line within the selected habitat or plot. Then equidistant points are marked along the line and counts are made at each point. Now, it's suitable mostly for plants or showing transition in vegetation, and only the plants along the line are identified, counted, and recorded. And it's useful, or it comes in handy along rough terrain like the hillside and along the river valley. That comes out as an advantage. Number 2 is the Quadrat method. It involves random sampling, just like the line transect. A quadrat, by definition, is just a wooden or metallic square, mostly 1 meter by a meter, so a square meter of metallic or wooden square frame. And further divisions sometimes are made on it to allow for more accuracy, and this depends on such factors as the area to be measured, the nature of the habitat, and the objective of the study. The process involves identifying a suitable area, making and measuring the size of the total area of study, standing in the middle with the quadrat, throwing the quadrat in several areas randomly within the marked area of study. Wherever it lands, the organisms, they are identified, counted, and recorded. It's suitable for plants like the grass and herbs, for small plants, right? Not trees, not forests, and slow-moving animals. But the challenge that comes with, especially for the animals and even the plants, is that there are sometimes damages occur because it has to be thrown in on landing. Sometimes it harms the organisms, be they plants or animals. Number 3 is the belt transect method. This also is another random sampling method where the belt transect is basically just 2 ropes put parallel to each other within the study area, about a meter apart. Counts are made between the 2 ropes at marked points, and the organisms are identified and recorded. It can be used together with a quadrat just for accuracy, and it is more suitable again for estimation of plant population. like for where you have trees in a forest, this comes in handy. 4 is the direct count or census, and it involves the head count of members of a given species in a given area. For example, counting baobab trees in the African savanna. Well, speaking of census, it brings to my mind census counts in different countries. Have you ever been involved in any census exercise? Well, in Kenya, for example, the census exercise is carried out by the National Bureau of Statistics. Who conducts census in your country? Back to my example of Kenya, my country, the first census was conducted in 1969, with the latest being conducted in 2019, August. The population was estimated at about 48 million or thereabout, and is projected to be 552.6 million in 2022. That depicts different demographics, the social and economic standing of the citizens, and it is important for government policy planning and for budgeting and resource allocation. Well, more interesting facts, according to the tradingeconomics.com, the population of Kenya represents about 0.6% of the world's total population. Isn't that interesting? Which arguably means that one person in every 168 people on the planet is a resident of Kenya. Isn't that interesting? What is the population of your country or state where you live in? Please drop that in the comment section, and it will be really nice to share that with you. Back to the direct count again, it can also be done through aerial photography, as in the case of buffaloes, maybe in the national park, and that is really an interesting method of population estimation, right? However, in direct count, care must be taken not to avoid double counting. Please subscribe to the channel and give this video a thumbs up. Let us continue. 5, there is the Captcha recapture method. This one involves repeated sampling. The study area is identified, the size determined, and the organism is to be studied identified. An appropriate technique for marking and capturing is important, such that the organisms are captured, marked, released after some time, probably 24 hours or more. They are captured again, identified, marked, and from the second capture, then the individuals who have been captured again are identified as marked recaptured. So then we have first marked, second captured, SC, and marked recaptured, MR. The formula for estimating population using this method goes by this. P for population is equal to first marked times second captured all over. You divide it all by the marked recaptured, and the number gives you the estimated population of the particular species in study. There are certain expectations that guide this method. It is expected that the marking technique should not in any way interfere or alter the organism's behavior. The ink used for marking the organism also should be quick drying, and it should be colored. And the paint that is used also must be waterproof, especially for the aquatic organisms. Certain assumptions are made, or it is assumed that when the animals are first captured and released, when they're released, they're able to mix freely and evenly. It is assumed that they mix freely and evenly with the rest of the population in the habitat. 2, that there is no immigration or emigration of animals under investigation. 3, there is no death or variation in population during the period of study. 4, the mark doesn't alter the animal's behavior or frighten others. 5, that the marked animals have enough time to mingle freely with the others. It has several advantages and disadvantages. One is that some animals may die during the trapping. That's a disadvantage. The mark may come out. That is a disadvantage. But on the bright side, the method is suitable for highly mobile organisms like the insects, the birds, small animals, and aquatic organisms like the fish. The capture-recapture method comes in handy for such organisms. And that's an advantage. Isn't that interesting? Let's continue. Have you subscribed to the channel yet? Have you given this video a thumbs up? If you haven't yet, then please do so and let's continue. Oh, we are at the end of the lesson. But not yet because we haven't done the quizzes and the assignments. But then let's go ahead and summarize today's lesson, right? Well, population, we have learned about population, that the fact that it's dynamic, it keeps on changing, it doesn't be this, it's not the same like over time, it keeps changing in size, structure, and organization. We've learned on population density, dispersion, and growth as characteristics of the population, and looked at 5 population estimation methods involving sampling. Some of them are random sampling, some involve a repeated sampling, and that the sampling, the random sampling methods like the line transect, the belt transect, and the quadrat methods come in handy in population estimation, especially for the plants. And involving repeated sampling like the Captcha recapture method, we have looked at that too, and the assumptions and expectations there. There is also the direct count. This one, we have even looked at sensors of us human beings. Isn't that interesting? So yes, ecology is really at the heart of our survival, even as Homo sapiens, Homo sapiens, right? But the method used, also remember that the method used depends on the type of organisms, its habitat, the size of the habitat, and the nature of the habitat, and that each method has its own shortfalls, challenges, shortcomings, and the advantages. On to the quizzes. I like quizzes as a person. Personally, I like quizzes because it helps to gauge whether learning has taken place or not. Now, number 1. The distribution of organisms in a habitat is known as what? I gave choices. Is it population growth? Is it density or dispersion? Which one? Which one? Are you able to tell before I reveal the answer? Tada! The answer is definitely dispersion. Now, did you get it right? If you did, I give you a thumbs up. So dispersion is the distribution of organisms in a habitat. Number 2, define the word density as used in population. Definition question is coming your way. These ones are very common in exams in ecology. So yes, what's the definition of density as used in population? Are you able to define it? Tada! It's the number of individuals per unit area. Yay! If you got that too, that's great. That's wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Number 3. List 3 characteristics of population. And this would earn you 3 marks. What are the 3 characteristics of population? Can you remember? Are you able to recall? Were you taking notes as you were learning? If you were, that's great. Ta-da! Look at that. Population growth, population density, and population dispersion. The other characteristics, but I chose to work on the 3 because, for example, in the Kenyan syllabus, then we are expected to have those, all right? You can mention others in the comment section of this video. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so and give this video a thumbs up. And number 4, this time it's a long one. Let's take time to read it together. A group of Kenyan students were investigating the number of tadpoles in a shallow pond. They caught 100 tadpoles, marked them with white paint, and then released them back to the pond. After a day, they made a catch of 80 tadpoles from the same pond, and of these 40 had white paint marks. On to the questions. A. Name the sampling method used. Think about that. What's the sampling method used? Look at it. It's so obvious. Yeah. B, list two expectations of the method named in A above. What are the expectations? Remember, we discussed them, right? C, list three assumptions of the method. What is assumed in the method? Lastly, D, calculate the population of the tadpoles. Some maths coming here, right? Yes, what did you come up with? Let's see. A, name the sampling method. It's definitely Captcha, recapture method. That's right. Did you get it? If you did, thumbs up to you. B, two expectations of the method. One, the paint must be quick drying. It must be waterproof, especially for aquatic organisms. Ensure you specify that. And the marking technique should not harm the organism. 3. C, list three assumptions of the method. 1, no immigration or emigration of the organisms in the area of study. That the mark doesn't alter the organisms in the behavior. Actually, I think this one of marking actually cuts across the expectations and assumptions. The other one is the released organisms have time to mix freely with the rest of the organisms. And I want you to list the other two that are not mentioned here. Okay, and then lastly, some maths. Calculate the population of the tadpoles. What's the formula? Can you remember? It is population is equal to, or P is equal to first marked times second captured all over marked recaptured. So the first marked are 100 times, the second captured is 80 all over 40, and that gives us 200 tadpoles. Did you get that? If you did, thumbs up to you. If you did not, then it's just a matter of looking at the question again and mastering the formula and doing the necessary. Very easy, right? Number 5, name 4 biotic factors that regulate animal populations in an ecosystem. What are the biotic factors? The living factors, right? These ones involve organisms, yeah, that are living. Which ones do you think they are? I know we didn't cover much of that in this lesson, but which ones are they? All right. Let's look at them, and the answers are migration, which involves immigration, which means an emigration. Immigration is into the population, and emigration is out of organisms going out of the population that they originally were at the habitat level. There is competition, predation, parasitism, diseases, and human activities. That's right. I give you six factors, right? That's great. I hope you're noting them down so that you can refer once when you forget maybe. But you're doing a good job checking the quizzes, very important in learning. Actually, quizzes are just meant to measure retention, what you have learned or understood or gathered in the lesson. So here comes the assignments. So having done the quizzes together, now this is your take-home assignment. Number 1, define the following terms. A, population growth. B, quadrat. C, sample. Number 2, list 4 sampling methods used in population estimation. 3, list 1 advantage and disadvantage of any 2 methods mentioned in number 2 above. And D, describe how aerial photography is done. Those are just 4 questions, about 12. How many marks is this? 1, 2, 3. That is 3 plus 4 is 7, plus 2 is 9, 9 plus 3 is 12. About 12 marks. If you score the 12, please tell us in the comment section. If you have a challenge, please reach out in the comment section. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so and give this video a thumbs up. Thank you for staying along all the way from the beginning of the lesson to the end. I want to thank you so much. This is Mentor Generations with teacher Angie. It was nice having you in this video all the way learning, and see you next time. Bye.